Is it better go live then? Good morning, welcome to Morning Outlook. This is Kim speaking on Thursday, the 30th of March. So, one day left of the month. What we got ahead of us today, let's just have a look at the news events first. If I can bring up the news events first. We have today then all day long. Okay, so this morning we've got the German Consumer Price Index, the CPI, out this morning, running through to about 11 o'clock-ish, 12 o'clock-ish. I would watch out for that as a sort of a bit of an indicator of what's going on. It's probably not going to have the same effect as it's suggested on here, or the impact. It's more of a lesser impact, but can have an impact. Euro, Spanish, the final GDP for US. Finals always have less of an impact unless, I don't know why it's so brightly coloured here, unless of course it really varies, and by the time they get to final the variations are very small these days anyway. They can count their beans a bit easier. Unemployment claims don't make anything. That's about it really. But we do have speakers, and these speakers are quite key, particularly after the whistle. Due to speak, I was saying that I'm just looking to see what Janet Yellen is speaking about. Due to speak at the annual National Association for Business Economics, she can spill some beans there and give a view a little bit more. So that's at 8:45 p.m. But we do have some other speakers coming out. I'll just check my other system here. We got Biden addressing the Democracy Summit, Democracy Summit, Bank of Canada, Bank of England. So we've got a few speakers there. I'm just looking. Actually, before then we've got some speakers. Make sure I've got the right day. Looking at the wrong day. Let's go on again. There we go. Sorry about that. So we do have Swiss National Bank, Feds, Barkin, Collins and Kashkari even, all speaking later. So we do have a, but all after 5 o'clock. My dealings and trading's normally done by then. So, but it could affect the market. It could slow the market down when we're waiting for speakers to speak. Right, let's get on and look at the technicals. Looking at the euro dollar first. Euro dollar really barely did anything yesterday. It's this area here consolidated. In fact, it's just come down, and look at it. It did catch that. I was looking and saw the potential earlier on of it running into its R1. Congratulations if you managed to get into that. But the risk reward, by the time it sort of set up, the risk reward wasn't great. It was 1 or less than 1 to 1 for me, so I actually left it in terms of a room call. It was just not well, it did spike above there in the end, but very, very choppy. So you see how choppy it was. The pound was similar. It came slightly short of its R1 there. In fact, quite a bit short of the R1, but you could see why if you went to the information that sits below. If I just click on here, there you go. It ran into its 4-hourly R3, so it really had found a decent bit of resistance there. It had a air kiss, then ran into it, hit it properly, divergence, rolled over. So there you go. That's what happened below the waves. Today, well, is it going to get above the pivot here? It hasn't hit its S1 yet. Still potential to push up on the pound. I'm not writing this off in okay. It's showing some divergence, I would imagine, over these highs here, and it has triggered those, so that it has lost its sort of direction of where it was sitting on this time frame. Bigger time frames is probably a bit more forgiving, and it suggests it's still pushing up. So, and you look at that retracement on the big intermediate time frames, even it looks like it could still push up, but not a place I'd really want to be buying from yet. Dollar yen, well, they've just announced the biggest spend effectively in records. It's not really had a lot of effect on the yen this morning. It's strengthening a little bit but not a great deal. And overall, the picture for me is to the upside on this at the moment. It's sort of bull flagging. Now it could get back to its pivot and find some support. We've seen it with other markets, the yen markets. It's pulled back to the pivot and found the support. Aussie dollar, well, it's catching a bounce today, this morning. Overall, to me, it still looks a bit on the weaker side. Yesterday it did sell off from its highs, but it's still dancing in this sort of 4-hourly range, and it's a rising range to be fair to it, so it hasn't broken the lows of that. It really, for me now, it needs to break the low of that to convince me that it's going to do anything significant. Short term then, it's already hit the pivot, and it's air kissed the S1 and might be running up to air kiss the R1, but it has got a lot of resistance around that point. Doing okay at the moment, to be fair. US dollar CAD, now talking about this for ages now, it's breaking out, it's pushing down now. Personally, I'm looking for it to get down towards these prior lows here, so there's the potential of that getting into trades on it. Well, it's just on its own here, it's disappearing. I was hoping yesterday, look, you can see my alarm still sitting there waiting for it to come back to its pivot. Never happened. It trickled down, then it's retraced through the Asian session there, bounced into its daily pivot, heading off to its S1. Might need to wait into tomorrow, next week, to get in a bit of the action there. New Zealand dollar, well, still chopping along here. It's a bit like the Aussie. Won't look at that anymore. Euro yen, it fed me well yesterday, but it's could come back. It's already done so much on its weeklies here. Dailies wise, it could get back to its daily pivot, which would be quite nice to see if it got a bounce off of that, and that's something I'll be looking at today. I've just put my little thing on there, so I'll be putting alerts on that to look to see if we can get a bounce off the pivot. I don't buy into the pivot, I wait until it reverses a bit. I'll explain that more in the room later. Morning Ritu, Ian, morning. Okay, so the Euro Aussie flow, good morning. The Euro Aussie still in this range effectively. Now the Aussie is getting the better of it today. There's this sort of support area you can see around here. I wouldn't, as much as it's in a channel and you think, well, I mean, buyers might come in there, but I won't be first to be buying, I can assure you. At this rate, it's selling off quite sharply. Now it's strength from the Aussie more than anything else that's pushing through here. It's really getting the bid going, so won't want to be fighting against this one either way. I would have expected the euro to be stronger than the Aussie at the moment, but it isn't, and it's a battle. In fact, I'm just turning a page to look at what my sentiment was showing. The Aussie and the euro had negative sentiment, or the sentiment over the last week or so. Its sentiment's off, for the Aussies have been off for a while. Anyway, so there's a fight to the bottom maybe. EURCAD also shifting off down here. I seem to be remember looking at this and thinking, well, back into the pivot for a short, but it didn't do it until about midday. I missed that, and off it's gone. So today, well, it's already hit the S1, the lesser probability of its pivot, but we'll see. But you can see how these, well, the CAD is certainly strengthening the commodity currencies there. The Aussie's pushing up this morning. Pound Aussie's not got anything going for it. The pound CAD is selling as well, although a bit of divergence where it's sitting at the moment. Potential to push back towards its pivot, but I won't be a buyer of that because the market's running downwards at the moment. Pound yen, again, this is one waiting for it to run through. So pretty much through, actually, the Aussie yens, Aussie CAD, Aussie yen was it. Aussie CAD I was looking at a short while ago. It was dithering around its pivot here, and it looked quite nice, but that's not looking quite so nice now. It's in a downward bit of price action, so maybe the R1 might stall it and it could roll back from there, but I'll leave it on my watch list, but it's not looking so good. Aussie CAD, well, just putting higher lows in at the moment and continuing in its path. Talk about more of that after we finish here this morning, in the room later. Right, other markets then, looking at gold. So gold, it blows. There you go, consolidation. It's a bit of a wedge consolidation. Generally, a consolidation and a wedge would break out the highs. This isn't looking so convincing on the 4 hourlies here, and the hourlies, well, maybe a little bit better, but it's, in fact, it's, I say a wedge. It looks a bit like a wedge on the dailies, and you come down here and it's really consolidating away from the highs altogether. It's not even midway between a low and a high. It's sitting there towards the lower side. Maybe it will see a bit more of a rally today, but I wouldn't be a buyer with this price action that's going on at the moment. Oil. So yesterday it pipped up and then pulled back again. It looks like it's having a battle here around these lows, these prior lows I mentioned before. Let's put the higher low in. It's on the weeklies there, and daily pivots, well, not looking so cool at the moment. It'll have had some divergence over yesterday's highs there, pushing to the underside of the pivot. It just looks a bit on the weaker side. Wouldn't be a buyer there either at the moment. So let's have a quick look at the equity markets. We should have seen some decent moves in some of these, and there we go. So there we are, the CSI 300. There's a lot of talk in China as well about investment and pushing up, and this is certainly giving the equity markets a little bit of a move this morning. The Nikkei not so much. It's off from its highs yesterday, although tried to recover at the end there. Nifty 50 is maybe trying to put a bottom in. He says it'll look a lot more bullish above 17,231 for sure. US markets seeing a bit more positivity here. I'll just look at this S&Ps in a bit more detail. You can see the higher lows continuing. Quite a nice move there yesterday. Is that yesterday afternoon or the afternoon before yesterday? Let's have a look. That was the afternoon before yesterday, probably. Anyway, nice move up through yesterday. Probably a bit of divergence sitting around where it is at the moment. It will get traders shorting it, but in a bit of a no man's land where it sits, it would have been much nicer if it had come down and found support into its daily pivot. Right, let's look at the rest of the US market. So Dow following slowly behind there. Let's just get rid of that line while I think of it. Sorry, there we go. The NASDAQ still leading the race really, and yesterday good solid day, nice pivot swing there, and it's already looking bullish here today. Again, it's done this move a little. I prefer to see them come back for the pivots, but who knows, it could just run off to its R1. Again, it'll have a bit of divergence over these highs, so there'll be traders selling into this because it's at a high. That's a natural thing to sell into it apparently. Right, okay, getting close to home with for the DAX. I know we have quite a few DAX traders watching the videos and stuff. So the DAX, well, again yesterday, solid day above its just pushing now above its monthly pivot. The intermediate time frame looking better now as well. It's given us a higher low over there. It's given us a near-term higher low, but a more significant higher low in this movement as well. So much more positive. Now again, it's just like the other equity markets, it's sitting somewhere between its pivot and its R1. If it hits the R1 first, well, there is scope for them to push on towards the R2, and a better scope and a lesser probability of hitting the daily pivot there. Much lesser. FTSE slower, but doing a similar move. It's behind the curve there, it's chasing the others. It's not looking quite as pretty. It could, in this whole shape, could just come up to an equal throw maybe of this initial wave here. Could just push through, but it isn't looking the best, and it's actually on the shorter time frames here. You can see 4 hourly just running into some resistance, but again sitting there between its daily pivot and the R1. Again, I think we'll see this led maybe by the other markets. It might just be catching on by the coattails there. Right, on that note, I wish you a great day's trading, and I'll speak to you tomorrow. Have a good one. Take care for now.